because NPC nationally is very stuck in their ways. So panel-like recruitment could use a little facelift. So it's interesting what we'll see come out of that. From an IFC standpoint, in full transparency, this needs to change how our Stetson IFC recruits. What has worked in the past isn't working for all of our campus and for all of our IFC chapters, and we really do need to think differently. So I'm hopeful that this is going to help our IFC kind of think out of the box and how we can do IFC recruitment. Again, in full transparency, during the summer, we had lots of meetings with our IFC chapters, and most of the time the conversation revolved around, we're going to wait till the spring semester. We're not going to do anything this fall. We don't know anything about virtual. We're not going to put in the effort. Which I totally get and understand. This is uncharted territory. But I kept pushing the men, being like, you have to do something. So they ended up doing something, and it was interesting. I will say that. IFC changed some of their policies, because typically for the fall, you would have to, before you could give a bid to anybody, they had to go through the recruitment process. And we changed that policy because of COVID and nervousness of numbers. And we let them extend bids starting as soon as the semester started. So before recruitment even took place, we had 32 new members in our community, which is awesome. Like that, I was very thankful for that. However, on the flip side, we only had 17 people sign up for the virtual recruitment. And from those 17, only 5 accepted bids. And so again, that's a little concerning. But looking at this COVID world, we still, working with it. And so we are looking for the spring semester, hopefully to be able to do something in person, but still having a backup plan. And because of depending on where the campus is at, we might not be able to do something in person, or even if we can do in person, we're probably not going to be able to do it the same way that we used to. And so that's kind of what we're looking at next step with next semester.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I see in the chat, Charles is saying, ready for COVID to go away though? How about you? Oh yes, I am very much ready for it to go away. But I will say, though, on the flip side, the advisor part of me is very thankful for COVID this semester, because the amount of conduct that we have seen amongst our fraternities and sororities has gone down. So I will say I am thankful for that their mischief has been less. But we also don't have all of our students back. And so I will say I'm grateful for that. But it's definitely a weird experience. I can't imagine being a chapter president right now running virtual meetings. And it's definitely something that I don't even necessarily have all the answers to for our students. So we're definitely learning as we go.
Great. Renee, could I jump in and say something real quick? Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rena Tovar Arroyo. I've been at Stetson 15 years, and watching our students interact this year has been really heartbreaking, actually. The first year students who are rule followers stayed in their rooms, and they followed the rules. And the sororities did an incredible job with that. And when I think about it, sometimes men interact a little differently than women. And I think it was super hard to get to know one another and to meet people. So a lot of those young men just kind of stayed in their rooms. We're seeing them getting more and more involved. When we went to tier 2 with COVID, which is our security level, it got better. We're back in tier 1 now. So it's just a super hard environment. I have a lot of hope for next semester, and I was really grateful that Renee and the powers that be let the fraternity shirt men, because when I heard that, it was like, yes, because these students, these first year students need to find their people. They need to find home. And so I was grateful that you did that. And I think next semester is going to be better because they'll feel a little more comfortable, but it's just, quite frankly, it's been hard.
Mhm. Absolutely, it's been hard. Even coming from like a national level, looking again at our sororities, nationally NPC is telling our students not to program in person, and because we are seeing increases in the news amongst our fraternities and sorority communities. So they're encouraging like don't do stuff in person. And that's really hard on our students. We, as you can imagine, are all pretty sick of Zoom and doing stuff virtually. That's why this week doing homecoming stuff, thankfully, the university was allowing us to do some small in-person events. And it was so refreshing to be with our students again and able to see them in person. And I know it gives me more energy for the spring semester in hopes that we're able to do that more and more. So very positive thinking for the spring semester. So kind of looking at time and giving an update to everybody, since our numbers were a little bit lower, we're not going to do the breakout rooms, but we do have an opportunity for question and answer, or if you want to share something with the group, you're more than welcome to as well. So you're more than welcome to utilize the chat box, again, that raise the hand feature. And so pop any questions in there for Antonio, myself, even Rena too. And so again, please feel free to utilize that. And, oh, sorry, yes.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to talk one more thing kind of about a recruitment standpoint and looking at the future. And so we do have a National Panhellenic group on campus. So they are part of the Divine Nine, which is our historically Black organization. So right now on campus, we have one fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and kind of looking at them too from a recruiting standpoint. They typically recruit in the spring semester because they don't allow first semester students to join. They do require certain credit hours before joining. And so they, this semester, haven't done anything for recruiting standpoint. And so we're excited to see what they're able to do in the spring semester, as well as kind of looking at our community as a whole. We're also looking at bringing in a couple more multicultural fraternities and sororities as well, because our students are asking for them and there's a need on campus, so might as well. Oh yeah, and we have Rich George on here too, who's part of our advisory board.
Yeah, this is Josh again, and
yeah,
yeah, I'm curious how sort of the feel of the campus has been broadly, and then specifically within Greek life around adhering to the social distancing guidelines, adhering to the groups, adhering to the various levels, where can definitely understand the idea of it is can be challenging. And I know that in Florida, the governor has been more, I guess, liberal in terms of allowing things to happen and opening restaurants, opening bars, etc. So I wonder if you could talk from just sort of the feel of the campus, and then two, specifically around Greek life, has there been kind of embracing of the sort of community, we need to get through this together, or have there been issues with partying groups, etc.? And you don't have to specifically call anyone out, but just sort of curious how that has been.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about this, and then I'll also have Antonio kind of give a student perspective as well. But from administration point of view, the feel on campus is weird within our fraternities and sororities because we are social organizations. That's what we are. And it's hard when the university says, for the whole fall semester, you can't do anything with alcohol, as well as we're very limited for how many people we can have in person, as well as limiting locations. So right now, our students are only allowed to go within 5 miles of campus. So like doing a formal, you can't do that this semester. A couple weeks ago, we had a couple chapters start to do mixers and like date night functions again, but still they have to be very small. Again, when we were in tier 2 for the university, it was up to 30 people that they could have. So sometimes that's half a chapter can only be there because of that number. So it's definitely a weird feel. And a lot of the chapters don't want to do anything because they're like, well, we can't really do anything anyway, so we're not going to do it, which is sad to see. But some of them are doing that. And then to your second point about partying, we definitely are seeing off-campus unregistered functions happen. From that, we are seeing spread of COVID. So definitely there have been a couple of our fraternities and sororities that we've had to isolate a bunch of chapter members because they did have unregistered events, and a lot of brothers and sisters together, not wearing masks, not social distancing, and partying. And so we have been dealing with that, having chapters going through our conduct process, and because we do have new COVID policies in place about that. And so it's definitely something we are seeing. But I will say I appreciate our students because they are reporting one another. And we are seeing a lot of reports come in where students are concerned for their peers and telling us about those risky behaviors. So we are able to have those educational conversations with the students to kind of be like, hey, stop doing this. You want to be able to have a formal in the spring semester. Stop doing this now so we can do that then. And so we are having those conversations constantly with our fraternities and sororities. And then Antonio, you want to kind of talk about student perspective?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about how the campus feels right now. Can't really speak for the rest of it because I'm in the business school and we're kind of isolated on our own. But if it's anything like the rest of the campus, it's kind of sad actually. I'm used to being in the LBC pretty much the entire day, and I still have to be because I'm in Roland George. But it's pretty much empty other than just the people in there. There's no one else hanging around the campus like there normally is. Just no people, with their things, hammocks strung up. So it's definitely not what we're used to. And on the Greek life side, again, like Renee was saying, we really don't have events. We were just able to have in-person events a little bit ago, but then now we're back to phase 1. So it's been a challenge in that. So there's really hasn't been that many events. There's been no socials, no anything really. Now for the other aspect of it, a lot of people, obviously they haven't seen each other in 6 months and they came here trying to say, oh, we're going to throw, the politically correct version of what Renee was saying, parties. And obviously that's when we had the huge spike in COVID cases here. So that kind of, a lot of people kind of just, opened their eyes to that. It's like, oh, we really shouldn't be doing that. And the school, reacted accordingly. So that's also been cut down. And then people got comfortable, and now we're in phase 1 again. So, yeah.
That we are. But our students are being troopers. I will say that they are being awesome through this whole process, and they are coming up with ways to work with everything that they've been handed. I know for sure our chapter leadership is very much ready to hand over the baton right now as they're currently doing chapter elections, and they are so ready to pass on to the next chapter presidents, next exec boards, and because again, no one prepped them on how to handle this, and it's not the presidency they were expecting or an exec board experience they were expecting. But thanks for that question, and that was a good question to hit upon. Other questions?
I have more. I don't want to just keep asking them, but I'm just curious about this stuff. What's the occupancy? Again, I'm broadly across Stetson in terms of the housing on campus, because I can't remember, but I think some people had choice to be in person or off, or I know a lot of universities are doing that there versus the occupancy in Greek life, because I know you mentioned at least in some of those houses that's a challenge.
Yeah, so are you talking pre-COVID or COVID?
Current state, or sort of, yeah, right. So Antonio was talking about how the campus feels sort of dead and sad versus that because there's just nobody there, or the people who are there are in their rooms.
Yep, that makes sense. So on campus, we decided for the fall semester to do single occupancy. So all of our bedrooms, instead of being doubles, you're by yourself. So that cuts down how many people we have on campus. So kind of looking at our fraternity structures, they house 22, but now they only house 11. Looking at our sororities, they typically would hold 16, now they hold 8. And so kind of looking at that, it does take down the number that are in the facility, as well as looking at the chapter room aspect. So all of our fraternity and sorority facilities on campus have a chapter room that the chapters are able to utilize. However, during COVID this fall semester, those chapter rooms haven't been open at all. So while we were in tier 1, they were completely closed. So no one was able to be in there. And this wasn't just our fraternity and sorority communities. This was all of campus. All residence hall community space was closed. The rationale for that is we don't want a whole bunch of students congregating together because we were looking for 10 or less. So we decided to close all those community spaces. In tier 2, the chapter rooms and all community spaces on campus were supposed to open back up, but we were hesitant. So as we entered tier 2 at the end of September, we decided to hold off on opening the chapter rooms. We were about to open them back up, but then we saw an increase of cases on campus. So university dropped back down to tier 1. So again, the chapter rooms are currently not in use. And so that affects who you see on campus, because a lot of our commuter brothers and sisters, when they're looking for some place to hang out, they're going to go to the chapter room. All of our members have access to that, except this semester, we did not give access to the houses to anyone that except if they were living in there. Again, university policy for all residence halls, not fraternities and sororities alone, was during tier 1, you were not allowed to have any guest in your bedroom. So you could not have anybody come into the house. And then in tier 2, you were allowed to bring one guest. They had to be a Stetson student. They were not allowed to sleep over, but you could bring one guest per room. But again, now that we're back in tier 1, that's not allowed to happen currently. So there are some challenges with that, and that definitely plays a factor on who we're seeing on campus, as well as we're seeing a lot of our students, not just fraternity and sorority students, but across the board, all of our students, they now have the option of hybrid classes, and a lot of them are choosing to do them virtual. And we're not seeing as many in-person students. So that is also playing a factor on campus where we don't have a lot of students just walking around and hanging out.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are good questions. Sorry, they're not so nice answers, but
yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, I mean it's tough. Those are strict rules. I'm curious, can you just talk a little bit about sort of right, how these rules are defined, right? Like, is it through kind of in terms of engaging local public health? I know that has been one of the broader just issues that the world deals with is there's no set guidelines, and there seems to be this moving target. How are you all defining what those are and then stepping up back the levels?
Yeah, so we have a Safer Campus committee that is looking over that. So they're working with the Department of Health to go with our CDC guidelines, what Department of Health here in Florida is saying, as well as coming up with stuff for the university. So we have our VPs are a part of that, as well as like our Dean of Students is a part of that, our health services is a part of that, our university risk manager. So they're the ones that are really coming up with the initial approving of things and what those policies are. I'm a part of one of the work groups for the groups and gathering. So our work group kind of comes up with the in-person, what's allowed to happen, what's not allowed to happen. And so we kind of provide proposals to that Safer Campus, then they either approve or deny or bring it to the vice presidents of the university and for them to approve. So there's a lot of different people working on things, but we are using CDC guidelines as well as Department of Health. So it's not just Stetson being like, we're going to pull stuff out of the air. They are trying to be very strategic, as well as knowing we are a smaller community and we want what's best for our students, and we're just trying, thankfully, being able to make it through the whole semester in person, because there were so many universities that after a week were like, we're done, we're going virtual again. And so we're thankful to have, again, we're almost through the semester, but I know it's it's hard on our students and they're itching for quote normalcy again.
Yeah, quite honestly, Josh, I'm incredibly proud of the way that our administration and faculty and staff and students, because they were all in these planning groups, the way they did this. It's been hard, but we had, when students got back, we had a big spike, and we had, I think, about 30 with COVID, and we
Oh, there was
isolated
more.
a lot more, 50.
It was a little bit more.
Okay. And we actually had the direct contacts quarantine in hotels, and we were delivering them food. Other universities that, like my nephews and niece go to, they sent them to their home. And so they took COVID home to their communities. And then other universities like American University, where my son is, didn't even have in-person classes. So it went way down to 0 cases for a while, 1, 2, and then so we went into tier 2. And then as Florida spiked again, we've spiked again. And so now we're back into tier 1 with the restrictions. But there were no right answers in this. It was like building an airplane while it was flying.
I mean, even within that, right? Like I've read, like you get news reports of universities who don't handle it very well, and students are, I'm sure Renee and Rena, you know, students are not shy about talking about their experience, and they have a lot of avenues to push that out. So
yeah,
I'm just kind of curious. I know there's sort of no right answer on it, but thank you.
I'm glad you asked, because I'm really proud of the way Stetson's handled it.
And also, I'm going to put in the chat, this is a link to the Safer Stetson website that actually has a dashboard of how many current positive cases we have on campus, as well as how many students, faculty, staff we have in isolation. So that's now updated daily to see where we're currently at. And so that's nice that we're able to have that transparency. And as we're whittling down to the end of the semester, we're starting to see a lot more students who have to isolate are going home, and because there's a couple different reasons students isolate. 1, if they're positive, and then 2, if they've had direct contact with someone who's been positive. And so we are seeing some of our students now choosing to go home if they're able, and we talk through them to make sure that it's safe for them to do that. Or as Rena said, we also are currently partnering with local hotels and putting students up there.
Rich, did you have a comment?
Well, I've been observing this process, you know, closely along with the other board of trustees members. And I have to say, I've been very impressed with all the thinking, the hard work that's gone on with the staff in general, the flexibility that the faculty has shown, just really the team, the whole community pulling together, and very, very proud of the reaction to problems that have occurred, the students and their cooperation. When I look at what's happening at other universities, I mean, it makes me doubly proud of what we're doing. Long term, I see this as more and more evidence of the value of a Stetson education, the closeness of the community. To me, it's a win-win. I've always been a lemon to lemonade guy anyway. It was just nice to see it happen. So good leadership on the part of the staff. I believe Chris Rolke, our new president's come in, all guns blazing, doing a great job connecting with so many different members of our community. And I just want to make sure that folks realize how important we feel the Greek community is to the university. And that runs up and down through the ranks considerably more than I've seen it in the past. So while the national situation might look like it's an uphill thing for fraternities and sororities, I believe that we've found the real value of it here at Stetson, that we're promoting it. Renee, you're doing a great job. Kudos to you. The energy is awesome. The information that we're getting on this committee, where we're evaluating, you know, what the best steps forward are. The group is very inclusive. We have students there, staff there, alumni there, trustee there, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to come up with some more good ideas and make this thing work. So thanks again.
And thanks for talking about that. I think one thing that I didn't mention is our new university president and what that looks like for our fraternity and sorority community. And one thing that I will say is I'm grateful that President Rolke is willing to learn more about fraternities and sororities. He does not have a background with Greek life, but he's really eager to learn. On Halloween, I was working with our student programming board. They had a Halloween event at his house, and we were outside at the tent on his lawn. And President Rolke was engaging with the students, and I had this amazing conversation with him about what's going on with our current fraternity and sorority members. And then also he's wanting more data to learn about how he can support our fraternities and sororities and really help us in anything that we need. So I think we are moving in a great direction and have that university support. Even if our students say administration's out to get them, they're not. They want the fraternities and sororities on campus. They want to see us growing. They want to see us thriving, and they want to partner with us. And so again, I'm very grateful to have a university president as well as our vice president, Lua Hancock, and within our campus life and student success that are very supportive and constantly asking questions about our Greek community, but for good reasons, because they want to support us.
Yeah, well said, Renee. You know, it's interesting. Dr. Rolke, as most of you would know if you've read his bio by now, has been an athlete his entire life. He's very much a team builder. I can't think of a better team building potential than one gets at Stetson in the fraternity and sorority systems. So I think there's just an inherent awareness on his part of how important it is to the development of our students and to the continuity of the university throughout the many years. Here we are. If you look at those that are participating afterwards, those that show the love to Stetson, you know, the athletic community is a real stronghold. The Bonner group's a stronghold. The fraternities and sororities, many others that really receive the kind of quality education you can get and the value you can get out of participating at a smaller liberal arts college like this. There's some real leadership opportunities and connectivity, etc. So I know so many of my friends are my oldest friends, and they're from Stetson, and most of them are Greek. Not that I'm biased. So thanks for what you all do. Yeah.
Awesome. So being mindful of time, and before I hand it over to Rena, I just want to say thank you all again so much for being here. And I am happy if you have more questions about what's currently happening or you have thoughts, ideas for the future. Here is my email as well as my office number. So you're more than welcome to email me at any time, call my office number, leave a message, or hopefully I'll pick up, depending on if I have meetings or not. But please reach out to me. We want to involve our alums. Our chapters are very eager to work with you all. So please reach out to me and I can help direct you into who's the right person to get in contact with. So now, Rena, over to you.
Beautiful. Hi, George. I see you just joined us. Welcome. So I have the honor of getting to announce the Legacy Cup and the Heritage Cup winners this year. I know everybody's excited about this. We're going to start with the Heritage Cup. The Heritage Cup is presented to the Active Greek Society Fraternity and Sorority, whose alumni have donated the highest total dollar amount to Stetson University over the past year. So homecoming to homecoming. So our sorority who won the Heritage Cup this year is Alpha Zeta Delta, and our fraternity is Pi Kappa Phi. Congratulations. Thank you all for your support. All right, next to the Legacy Cup. Each year at homecoming, the Legacy Cup is presented to the active Greek sorority and fraternity that has the highest percentage of alumni who donate to any area at Stetson University. So the amount of, the percentage of alumni who donate from homecoming to homecoming. So the sorority is Alpha Zeta Delta. Congratulations. And the Legacy Cup is once again Alpha Tau Omega. Congratulations.